We're going to trigger the Alpinestars Tech Air system, but we're doing it manually. This cannot be done in normal circumstances. We have a lead from the back of the airbag system to the laptop where Jenny is over there, and she is going to trigger it, and it will go off, and you'll be able to see what it's like when the airbag goes off. She's only going to trigger it when I say now. Oh. I didn't say now. I said you trigger it when I say now, and I haven't said now. The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Greater adventure.
Hello and welcome to Adventure Bike TV. Now, on occasions, there are a handful of viewers that have said that from time to time, we might be a little bit KTM-centric on the bike reviews. Well, today we're at M&P. Now, M&P do a wide range of bikes. They do Kawasaki, they do Harley-Davidson, they even do Can-Ams and KTMs. But today, the bike review is all BMW.
Our lids open away from the bike, so they can be opened fully without interference, and they create a useful working area. Metal Mule, engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.
Now, BMW have got quite a bit of experience in defining or redefining classes of motorbike. So if you were to take, for example, sports bikes on the one hand, where the S1000 XR really defined what a sports bike could deliver. On the other hand, you take the GS 1150, the 1200, and now the 1250, absolutely defined the adventure bike marketplace. But what would happen if you brought the two of them together? So BMW created a sports adventure bike, the 1000 XR. And let's be really, really clear. And also, of course, this depends on what your definition of adventure is. And adventure, as we always say, is whatever you want to make it. But this is a bike built for adventures on tarmac. It is not a bike built for going off-road. And therefore, really, it's competing more with the Multistrada, the V-Strom, or the Versys. It is a sports adventure bike. It takes its styling cues from both the sports bike, the RR, and from the GS. I can't wait to get it on the tarmac. Possible to blend touring comfort and practicality with sports bike looks and performance. Put the 163 horsepower heart of a sports bike into a tourer. Well, I had the pleasure of the top of the range XR today, the Sport SE. Despite the pretty meaty price tag of 15,250 quid, I don't think you'd want either of the other two models if you were planning on doing any serious hard luggage touring. The Sport SE has the Gear Shift Assist Pro, dynamic traction control, heated grips and cruise control of the Sport model, but then has the luggage grid, the pannier fastenings, main centre stand and preparation for the GPS. Everything you want to get on the road on your tarmac-based adventure. This bike feels light, and that's because it is. only 228 kilos fully fueled, which should take you on 150 howling miles. And I mean howling. That exhaust sounds pure racetrack, and there's no way you'll want to ride it any other way than howling, unless you get the Acro exhaust, which you should, because the original is possibly the ugliest exhaust I've ever seen. Then it'll be leader of the pack howling. It stops rather effectively as well. Class-leading suspension and cornering ABS electro wizardry, combined with 320mm 4-piston calipers on the front, are super stoppers. Riding this bike is one of the most rewarding, enjoyable and thrilling experiences I've had on tarmac with any bike that had adventure in its strapline. The acceleration is just mind-blowing at any point in the rev range. I literally weighed out loud in my crash helmet when I rode this bike, and the last time I did that was when I first rode the KTM 1190, and before that was when I rode the Multistrada, which says a lot for how amazing this bike is. I need a moment to compose myself. That is fucking something else. That is just... that combination of an inline 4 in an adventure bike with all the electronics, particularly the Pro gear change. Oh, it takes me straight back to riding the S1000 XR on a track when I first rode it about 8 years ago. But in an adventure package, that is something else. So you'd probably get the sense from my initial reaction that I'm rather enjoying riding this bike, and I was just trying to think of the best way to describe it. And I think it's a combination of things. So it feels like it's got the flickability of my old Ducati Multistrada, but with the power of obviously the kind of the modern 1000 RR engine, but with the smoothness you get from a inline 4. Now, those to me are an astonishing combination. I am absolutely loving riding it. But what I would say is, if you don't like riding an inline 4, you will not like riding this bike, because it is so different to riding a V-twin or a triple. But I am loving it. This power delivery is in a class of its own, and those sport-size wheels do exactly what they are meant to. They make the bike ride like a sports bike. Speed, acceleration, cornering, stopping, these are just words, and they need a new set of adventure riding additives to make real sense of the fun that this bike is. If you start with the premise that this bike is made for tarmac adventures and touring, and that I like the inline 4 engine, then it's actually hard to be critical. A bit like Cindy Crawford, you can just live with the mole, and I can live with that exhaust, especially if I change it for an Acro. I've heard a few comments about vibrations through the handlebars, but I got none of that, especially in comparison with pretty much any other twin-cylindered big adventure machine. Comparisons. It's a bit tricky trying to compare apples with apples with this bike. Riding an inline 4 is such a fundamentally different experience that I think you have to compare this to other similarly engined bikes. If you try and compare it to the Multistrada, well, there's similar power, similar road-biased orientation. Then you just come to a dead end at the engine. And the same with a GS or a KTM Grand Tourer. Either you want a twin or you want an inline 4. The closest comparison might be the Versys 1000 Grand Tourer, but that's 40 horsepower less, and it will leave you with £3 to spare. This bike kind of sits on its own, but what a lofty position to be sat in. So there are no two ways about it. I have absolutely loved riding this bike. But before I go into a bit more of the reasons why, there's two tiny niggles. The first one is, despite the fact I love the sound of the exhaust, ew, it looks horrible. And the rest of the bike looks fabulous. And the second one is, the downshifts on the gears. I get a really weird kind of knocking feedback through the clutch lever, but to be honest, those two things I can live with because I love it so much. it takes me back to the days when I used to ride my Fireblade and my ZR 1100, the 600. Everything I used to love about riding those inline fours, this bike reminds me of. But in a package that I could just ride for thousands and thousands of miles without any pain in my back, or my shoulders, or my elbows. I really love it. The question is, of course, would I have one of these in my garage? And I think you know the answer to that. The bigger question is, what bike moves out to make room for this?
Welds in aluminium can fatigue and fail over time. That's why our panniers are riveted, like aircraft. Metal Mule, engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.
I wanted to say a really big thank you to M&P for loaning us the bike. And important to mention as well that they are just about to open a brand new BMW and a brand new Honda dealership. Now it's time for me and Molly with our top riding tips. Hello and welcome back to Top Riding Tips. Now last month we saw me bumping and grinding over a load of big rocks. This month we're going to be talking about crossing through water. Mark.
Yeah. Caution is what we should be saying. You need to be aware of what you're going to do. You need to have a look, and you need to take just 2 seconds to have a look. See how fast the water's running. A good test is 3 meters a second. Don't go. You can pick a piece of grass up and throw it into the water, watch it disappear. You need to be careful. But the most important thing about riding in water is that your approach is calm, it's collected, and you look to where you want to go. As you approach the water, little bit of throttle and ride out. That is the secret.
Yeah.
If you enter it too fast, you're going to make a ninny of yourself and you're going to get soaked.
Yeah.
And if it's the first crossing of the day, you're going to suffer by 5 o'clock.
So I think the answer is, and what I'm hearing is, put your bravado and your ego in your back pocket.
Yep.
Take some time.
Yep.
Check out what it's like. Don't go hammering into it.
No, because you don't know what's there.
No. Okay. Yeah. We don't want the bike travelling off down the river.
No,
do we?
particularly if it's muddy. If loads of people have gone through and have been struggling, you don't know what's there. If it's clear, it's maybe a slightly different ball game. Caution is the key.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So we're going to have a go.
Let's have a go.
Let's go. Okay. So I'm riding down into the water. I'm just looking at the entry point. I'm on the brakes, but at this point, I'm just off the brakes, just looking at the exit, nice and gently all the way through. It does not have to be a drama. Looking at my approach, looking at it straight on, just gently riding it straight out. Easy, nice and easy. You're really going to spoil your day if you hit that fast. You're going to be wet all day long. Okay, Graham, nice and steady, standing up, that's it. That's it, steady, straighten it out, nice and gentle on the throttle all the way over. Absolute doddle. Same again, nice and gently, nice and controlled, just ride it out. Well done. Textbook. Okay, that was really good, well done. Just a couple of pointers when we move on and we do much longer crossings that may be rough. You need to just think of a couple of things. And the first thing is, if you come off in water, your day's done. And if it's a cold day, you're going to end up cold at the end of the day, and it's not pleasant. So there's no good being a hero through water. It's just not worth it. The other thing is, you always need to have a slight reminder in your mind before you go in that you think, I know where the kill button is. Because if you do hit a rock and it phases you and you stall it, or you're going to drop it, switch the bike off quickly. Do not let the bike go underwater running, because then it's scrap. Okay, so just be mindful and remind yourself where the kill button is. So if you do gob it, you can get the switch off sharpish before it hits the water. Normally most people are hanging on with it just before it goes in. Switch it off.
Yep.
Okay. Other than that was textbook perfect. Well done.
Fantastic.
Cheers,
Thank you.
mate.
Great. Right, on next month's top tips, we're going to be doing everyone's favourite. We're going to be doing ruts. Thanks as always to Molly for his advice and guidance. Now it's time for Adventure Advice with Claire from Expedition 52.
Hi there and welcome again to Adventure Advice, your monthly AA meeting with me, Claire from Expedition 52, and today, Kathy from Motofreight, because we are talking about shipping. And today, Kathy is going to be helping us explain to us how to plan shipping your motorcycle to wherever you're heading to in the world. So, Kathy, hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And yeah, we just want to know a little bit more information about where do you even start when planning to ship your motorbike?
Okay, the first thing you have to think about, of course, is where you want to go.
Yes.
It sounds silly, but it's a major decision to make. There
Okay.
are some countries in the world you can't actually ship bikes to
Ooh.
at all.
Okay.
We could ship to there, but you wouldn't be able to clear them. So, for example, Vietnam, bikes aren't allowed in. So it may sound silly, but step number one is choosing carefully where you want to go. And what we'd recommend is get in touch with us during the planning stages
Okay.
and say, this is roughly what I'm thinking, this is where I want to go, how does that fit in logistically, paperwork, how does that sound? And by and large, it's going to be absolutely fine.
Okay.
But if we know there's a problem with that country at the moment, or there's been a long-running problem, that's a good time for us to say, actually, do you know what? Maybe consider starting somewhere else nearby, and we can give you the best options near there that you can start your trip.
That's pretty
Okay.
cool.
So you want to get in touch with us during the planning stages, even if it's a year, 2 years down the line from when you're actually going.
But ideally not like a week.
We can work. We can work with a week. In fact, we're working with a couple of shipments now for a week, so it is
That's
possible.
amazing.
It does depend where you're going.
Okay.
But give us warning. Give us a chance to actually give you some good advice, so you can start and move on from there.
Okay, and you touched on paperwork, so I'm presuming it's quite different for everywhere you're going. Is this something that you can help out with when it comes to shipping, and what do people need to think about with regards to this?
Absolutely. Really good question. I mean, to export your bike from the UK is very easy.
Okay.
All we need is a scanned copy of your title, also called a registration document with a V5 in the UK, and a scanned copy of your passport. But where you're going will dictate what paperwork you need, and
Right.
it is specific to different countries. So again, something you need to plan in advance. Some countries need a carnet de passage, some
Yep.
don't. Some do, and that normally takes at least a month to get. So
Right.
we recommend you start looking into that quite a long way in advance of shipping.
Okay,
Places like the USA need EPA exemption. This is all stuff from most countries in the world we can talk you through. We can't do it for you. It's the shipper's responsibility to
Right.
do this and make sure that it's right. But
Okay.
we can point you to where you need to go to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. And like with regards to, so I'm guessing in the planning process as well, you have to consider whether you're going to air freight or ship as well, like by sea. So, what are the pros and cons to both? What are your thoughts on that?
Really good question. And again, it depends on you, where you're going and why you're going.
Okay.
By and large, if you are travelling,
Yes.
we'd highly recommend air freight out to the start of a trip. Okay, really highly recommend it. Yes, air freight is usually a bit more expensive on the face of it than sea freight, but the timings are so much more reliable.
Sure, of
So
course.
you tell us the day you want to pick up your bike
Yeah.
at destination, and we'll have it arrive 1 to 2 days before you. That make sure it's there before you, but not so soon that it incurs any storage. Okay, so you arrive
okay.
on the day you want to start your trip. Your bike is there and ready
Hop on
to
it
go.
and you go.
Yeah, sea freight is a bit cheaper in itself. The
Yeah.
actual freighting element is usually a bit cheaper.
Okay.
Okay, but it takes longer.
Right.
And very often there's delays. And when they happen, they're for a week at a time, not a day at a
Ooh.
time. And it can be more than one. So you can have a bike delayed for 3 weeks. And if you take into account during those 3 weeks, not only are you losing your trip time, you're paying for accommodation, for food. It's not as if you can go travelling in that time, because you might have to stay near the port just to, you know, be there on hand when things happen. So general rule of thumb, there are some exclusions, but generally air freight to the start of a trip, sea freight at the end of the trip to come back, that's absolutely fine. It might save you a bit of money, okay, but it doesn't matter if it's delayed by a week.
And I guess if you sea freight, sometimes you can add extra things into the crate as well, so you might be without some gear and stuff like that, so if you get to the other side, that's not so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The other thing is sea freight on the face of it is a bit cheaper than air freight, but the arrival charges are usually higher, so you must look at the total cost. Never just go on freight, look at your whole cost of everything. We always try really hard to give you both ends, so you're looking at your complete cost of sea freight versus your complete cost of air freight, and then you can make an informed decision.
That sounds like a great plan. I think the only other things that we'd like to ask about kind of prepping and planning your trip. So when you do get to the other side of your destination and say you have your bike crated, what happens? I mean, when you uncrate it, do you A, have to get rid of that crate, and B, when do you start then planning if you've got like an open-ended trip coming home? Yeah. So what's the process with that? What would you recommend?
Yeah, again, really, really good questions. So when you're uncrating your bike at destination, our crates are very, very easy to uncrate. We've designed them in a way that it's very simple for you to do yourself. It doesn't take very long.
I've looked at them, they're awesome.
So you uncrate the bike, you know, at your leisure. We might have removed the panniers, we might have removed the top box. It'll still be in the crate, but they might need to be put back on the bike.
Okay.
So you take your time, put yourself back together, and then the airline that you're collecting from will nearly all the time dispose of any crate. Just go up to them and say, guys, do you mind getting rid of the crate for me, please? Ask them nicely. They might ask for $20 crate disposal fee. More often than not, they don't. Just be nice to them. They'll be really friendly. So get rid of that. You jump on your bike.
Yeah.
It's going to be low on fuel, because for either sea freight or air freight, it's got low fuel, so top up with petrol and you're on your way.
Fab. Okay. And then coming home, do you need to plan well in advance, or is it something that you can plan along the way?
Look, if you know you're thinking, look, I'm going to come back from New York, for example, let us know. We'll add it to your file, but you are not tied to that in any way whatsoever.
That's cool.
If your plans change, your dates change, you actually come back from Colombia, and we've had that, it's not a problem at all. Just, you know, when you're about a week away from coming back, send us an email saying about a week away from the place, you know, origin that you're coming back from.
Sure.
We will then put you in touch with our agent in that country, and then you can discuss how to deliver in and take it from there. But you do not need to let us know further than that. If you can give us a couple of weeks, brilliant. We don't really need it though. Just tell us when you're nearly there.
That's a lot shorter than what I was expecting, to be fair. And that's really great, because it seems a lot more complicated to crate and pack up and stuff and get things shipped, but it's actually not that complicated, especially when you're going through people like Motofreight who know exactly what they're doing. And there's so many more benefits to making sure that you are getting prepared and out on your adventure without any stalling. So thank you ever so much, Kathy. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If you have any more questions, guys, I know Kathy and the whole team at Motofreight would be more than happy to take your calls and answer anything that you have, any other questions that you're thinking of. Alternatively, you're welcome to come through to us at Expedition 52. We work very closely with these guys because they're awesome. So we're more than happy to look into this for you as well. But thanks again, and we look forward to finding out some more about shipping next time. So ta-da! Bye!
Of course, there'll be more from Claire next month. Now it's time to roll the adverts.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Great at adventure.
SWM Super Dual 650 GT. This version has the 21-inch front wheel and the 18-inch rear wheel, giving it a more off-road bias, but it's still same as the standard Super Dual GT. Comes with lower and upper crash bars, fog lights and panniers, already fitted on the bike. Excellent value for money, nice size bike, not too big, not too heavy, great for travelling. The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish at adverts.
Great at adventure.
Welcome back. Now it's time for Under the Visor.
Don't ride here. Ride here. Explore new horizons with Motofreight. Proud sponsors of Under the Visor.
I'm Nora. I'm from the Netherlands, and by day I am a consultant, a freelance consultant for IBM, and on my days off I make YouTube videos for my YouTube channel. Because I went on my first trip and I wanted to do it a little different. I tried blogging on previous backpack trips, but I always gave up after three sentences. So I thought, well, I really enjoy editing. Every time I edit, I just completely forget about the time. So I'm just gonna record this as a sort of a video diary instead of the traditional diary. And I might as well just put it on YouTube then. So my mom can see it, my grandmother can see it, my family, my friends, they can keep up with whatever I am. And that's how I kind of grew. So I switched to traveling with motorcycles because backpacking got too easy. Yeah, I just got bored really, because it was just too easy to go online and find a hostel, stay there, just do all the touristy stuff and just hop on a bus and go to the next location. So I really wanted to move overland. I was really fascinated by this overland travel idea. I didn't want to do it on a bicycle because, I mean, I have mad respect for those people, but I thought I wasn't that crazy. And I thought about going in a 4x4, but I didn't have the money to do it by myself. So I ended up with a motorcycle. And I used to ride motorcycles with my dad when he was in his first midlife crisis. So I had a positive experience with riding bikes as well. So then I was like, okay, it's set. It's gonna be a bike. As soon as I got my license, I went to the dealership with my dad. I tested out 2 or 3 different bikes. This was the one that was most comfy to me, and I said, I'll take it. And I had this trip in the back of my mind thinking, well, you know what, by the time I leave, I'll just buy another one, and one that's more suitable for a trip like this. But I didn't have the budget anymore, so I decided, well, if somebody can ride the world on a Vespa, then I'm sure this bike will make it too. So I started in the Netherlands, and I wanted to ride to Bali because all my friends went to on surf holidays to Bali. I thought, well, it must be a really nice spot to relax after such a long journey. So I decided to ride via Russia, Kazakhstan, all the stans, then track back to Iran because I really wanted to see Iran, and then did Iran, Pakistan, India, and all the way through Southeast Asia to Indonesia. Yes. Also tried to get local SIM cards, upload over 3G. Didn't necessarily work, especially in the stans. I had to go back to 480p sometimes. I could not upload HD videos because it would just take too long. Iran was next level drama because they block YouTube. So you needed to use a VPN to connect to YouTube, and then the internet speeds were dramatically slow as well. So I would turn it on, stay in a hotel, turn it on overnight, wake up, and then it would still be at 20%. So yeah, those were, before I left, I really had a think about like, am I willing to commit to this? Because I know it will take a certain part of the experience where I'm going to be like this. I'm going to be looking for Wi-Fi. I'm going to be spending so much time behind the computer instead of being out there. But for me, it was worth it to be able to share the story for so many other people out there who maybe are not able to travel. But more importantly for me was to give young girls a view on what a woman can be. So not only what you see a lot on YouTube, the makeup girls with the makeup tutorials and their hauls of fashion clothes that will last them maybe 3 weeks and then they throw them away. I really wanted to counterbalance that with something more raw and pure, and also a side of femininity that you just don't see that much. So I really wanted to share that side. I have 23,000 subscribers at the moment. Really? Yeah. A new trip. Yeah, so the romantic side of the story is that I met this guy in Nepal who was also traveling on his motorcycle. He was Austrian, but he's the same age, he left around the same time, had the same goals in life, and we really fell in love in Thailand and started traveling together. Had some time apart, decided we really liked each other, so continued traveling together, and then we wanted to prepare a trip together. So if we would have continued, it would always be one tagging along with the other. So instead we decided to go back for summer to Europe and plan an entire new trip. That would be something that we would create together. So we are going to Africa. We're going to do North Cape to South Cape. So first from the Netherlands, ride up to, all the way up through Norway, Sweden and Norway to the North Cape, turn around, do Eastern Europe, cross from Italy to Israel, and then Israel all the way south to South Africa, on the east coast of Africa. It's the fact that you have an adventure every single day. Might not be a big adventure, might be finding a post office to post your postcards, but these small things can turn into really big adventures, and therefore I remember every single day of those 14 months. I mean, I can go back through the footage, but I can say I remember this day. As where we've been home for about a year, we've been working, you get back into the groove. If you ask me what I did 3 months ago on, I don't know, the 14th of February, I'm like, I can't remember. You know, and that's something, we only have this much time in our life anyways, so I'd rather spend it creating memories that I can actually remember than doing this repetitive thing over and over again. So that's the addicting part for me. It's called adventurism. So it's the mix between adventure and tourism. I thought I made it up by myself, but it's actually in the dictionary as well. So if you type in adventurism and Nora, they'll definitely find it. Whatever your dream is, go do it now instead of next week, because there might not be a next week. And I'm young. I'm only 31 years old, so if I look through this event, definitely at the bottom side of the age range. But for me, it's just such a waste of, well, you can call it prime years, or this life, to spend it behind a desk right now. I could be making a career, you know, but what does that even mean? So for me, to realize that work is not everything is the most important message right now.
Don't ride here. Ride here. Explore new horizons with Motofreight, proud sponsors of Under the Visor.
It's a bit of a sad moment for me right now. It is the very, very last film school with Tom.
Hello and welcome to this month's and the last film school. So this is going to be the last film school that we're actually going to put in an episode of Adventure Bike TV, because I feel basically it's run its course and it has quite a limited interest. There's only a kind of small group of our viewers who really like this segment. So it won't disappear completely. When I do get new kit that's worth reviewing, or when there's something else I want to talk to you about filming wise, I will put it on Facebook and I'll put it on YouTube and it'll be on the website. It just won't be part of the main show, and it won't necessarily be a monthly thing. It also frees me up for a big change in tack that we're going to be taking with Adventure Bike TV very soon, but I'm not really meant to be talking about that yet, so shh. So as it's the very last one, I'd like to talk to you about 5 things that I think you should remember when making films. Now, these aren't tips, these are things I think you should try and remember. The first one is going back to one of our very first episodes where I say, do you actually want to film your trip? Have a very serious think about this. It isn't the same as just enjoying a trip, being there. You're looking at a very small screen the whole time. It can be exhausting. You're up first to film everyone else. You're to bed last because you've got to back up your footage. You always have to think about how you're going to charge your batteries, how are you going to get that shot. You know, do you ride with the group or do you ride ahead to find good shots? If you do it properly, it's very different to a normal trip. Of course, we talked about this before. Tell a story. Whether it's a short film or a long film, try and find a narrative within it and tell that story. It's so important. And to be honest, if your camera work's a bit shoddy, it's not the end of the world. If your sound's not perfect, it's not the end of the world. But if you tell a good story, you will engage people and people will enjoy your film. Speaking of sound, that's my next thing to remember. Always try and get the best sound you can. Experiment with what you're using to record that sound. Whether you're using a mic on the camera, whether you're using a directional mic on top of the camera, or whether you're using a shotgun mic, whether you're using something like this, which is actually our voiceover mic. And I thought today it doesn't really detract that much from what I'm doing because I'm sitting at a desk, so I thought I'd give it a try and see what the sound quality is like. This is so much about sound and film, is experimenting and seeing what works best for you. When you're on a trip and you have very limited amounts of gear with you, you have to get quite creative with how you record sound, but try it and try your best to do good sound. It's so important. I can't stress it enough. And it's not easy. Please remember that. Getting good sound is so difficult, and even blockbuster films muck it up. My next thing to remember is kind of leading on again. Practice everything. Don't kind of think, oh well, I'll get all the camera gear and stuff like that and then suddenly turn it all on for the first time the night before I go away on a trip. Don't do that. Go and experiment with your cameras, with your sound, everything. Go out with your lights as well. It's all really important. And experiment at different times. Don't just go, oh, it's a nice sunny day, I'm going to go and experiment with my cameras now on the bike. Because it won't be like that every day of a trip. Experiment on days when it's raining. Experiment on days when it's really overcast. Experiment on cold days, on hot days, when you're going anywhere, when you're inside, outside. Try and experiment as much as you can before you go. Get to know your camera, get to know your gear, and then you'll truly be able to get the best from your camera. And don't panic that you don't know the technical terms for things, like you don't know what shutter speed you should be recording at in this light, or what filters you should have on and things like that. Don't panic. Look at the screen. If it looks nice on the screen, you're going to be okay. The last thing I would like all of you to remember is make something you're proud of and try, even though it's really hard, try not to listen to what other people think. If you're proud of what you've done, then that's all that matters. Now, as soon as you put something on the internet, on YouTube or Vimeo or Facebook for other people to watch, that's when it grows, more people see it, and sometimes people love what you do and sometimes people hate what you do, and sometimes you will have people who love and hate exactly the same thing. You will make something and it will be what you think is a beautiful, beautiful film, and other people will agree with you and love your film, and then others for some reason will hate it. Don't let that get to you. A lot of the time, people that don't like the films that are made on the internet, they're just there to hate things, and try not to let it get to you. And it is sometimes soul destroying when you put a huge amount of effort in and someone comes back and just says one silly little comment. And I get it all the time with Adventure Bike TV and with the most recent TV series we've made. We've had people who absolutely love it, people who hate it. You are never going to please everyone. Don't let that put you off. Keep trying, keep making films, and as long as you're proud of what you've done, that's all that matters. Okay, so that's it for film school. Exciting things to come with Adventure Bike TV. Again, I can't say too much, but around the December time, look out for some cool stuff. But yeah, we'll be doing some reviews and things like that of camera kit online. If you did like Film School, thank you very much for watching. We will, as I said, be doing a few more bits online. But if anyone still wants any advice or tips or anything like that, please just get in contact. I'm happy as anything to help you out. Thank you very much, and I won't see you next month.
Now it's time for bike build, and finally, at last, the guys are going to stop writing on whiteboards and actually do some bike building.
Hello and welcome to this month's bike build, where we are actually going to do some bike building for a change. So we've moved away from the whiteboards and the planning, and we're actually here to do some work on the bike. So Sam, what are we going to do on the bike today?
Today we're looking at drilling out some bolts and putting on some wheels and seeing if she'll turn over.
Okay, so just to be clear, this is what's going to be the adventure bike. So this is the bike that we bought, you bought, for very little money. Okay, and by the end of today, we want to get the tanks on, because we've got the big safari tanks to go on.
All right.
We're going to get the wheels on. We need to sort out those sheared bolts.
Yeah, the sheared bolts are the biggest problem.
Okay, let's get started.
Okay, first port of call is to punch a hole in the sheared bolt, so that will guide then the drill bit, so we get a nice central hole. Now, what I've been told is make sure the RPMs on the drill are low, because the problem is that a lot of people have been blowing their drill bits out, and someone on the online spent 70 quid on drill bits because they were drilling too fast. So slow and steady, not my usual approach, but let's give it a go. How's it going? Well, haven't set anything on fire, which is always a good start. The drill bit has wandered a bit, and I don't know how central the hole is, but I think we've got to the point where we got to give it a try and see if our £7 Amazon thingy, as we like to call it, works. This will hopefully actually help us unscrew that sheared bolt. We bought this for I think about 7 quid off Amazon. So fingers crossed, let's see if it works.
Okay, so we just tried to get rid of the sheared bolts using the £7 item from Amazon. And surprise, surprise, it didn't work.
No, it didn't go down too well, did it?
No. And the thing is, you know, we'd like to kind of remind the viewers that we are just your average guys in a garage trying to get stuff done. You know, we're not pretending to be professionals or anything like that. So bear with us when we do stuff like this. When we figure out the right way of doing it, we will let you know. And when we fail, like we just did, we will let you know too. Today, we still want to get the bike started. And to start the bike, the first thing we need to do is put a battery in. But we can't put the battery in until we've got the front wheel on.
Yeah. It's already on a kind of like a dolly at the moment on the rear wheel. So just putting the front one on, we can then drop the bash plate and get to the actual battery. Okay. Which is a bit of a pain, but that's the little kind of things on the 990 which are a bit annoying.
Quirks.
Yeah.
The quirks of the 990.
Yeah, the quirks of the 990. So, battery's in. Now is the moment of truth. Let's see if it turns on. Okay. Up. Ooh. Ready? Well, that's good.
Just needs a fuel. Okay, so I feel like we've made some progress. We've got tank on. We've actually got the thing turning over, which is the first time it's even shown any life since we got it, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah.
But now looks like everything else seems to be going fine. I think it's fuel pump by the looks of it.
Yeah, there's. I mean, that's not a massive issue. As I said, because the fuel pump doesn't sit inside the tank. It's literally you just change it over. It's not a massive issue, but it's getting hold of one. I mean,
okay.
we could rebuild it.
So if anyone happens to have a spare fuel pump for a KTM 990 and they want to donate it to the show, we're kind of at a stop point now in terms of making the bike run because we need that fuel pump. So why don't we go and have a little look at rally bike stuff.
The exciting stuff, the shiny stuff.
The shiny stuff.
Shiny new stuff.
Okay, so we've done some work on the adventure bike and we're actually starting to make a tiny bit of progress, I think.
Yep.
In the right direction. But more excitingly, for the rally build, parts have come, new exciting parts. So this should be the rally kit.
Yeah, this is the Aurora 990 rally kit
We hope.
fairing. Wow, it's got the nice stickers on.
The only thing we have been told by the manufacturers before we do an unboxing in front of you all is that they were having trouble getting screens. They use KTM screens. So they were having trouble getting screens. So the screen for this is actually a second-hand one.
Yep.
So,
but that's fine. It's for a rally bike and it's not meant to be
pristine.
Pristine.
Right, let's get this thing open.
Right.
That's even got a metallic finish.
No.
Metallic paint. Yeah, look.
Wow.
It's actually metallic. So I think this is the second-hand thing, but that's cool.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's had a few stickers on, but
that's beautiful.
I don't care that it's second-hand. That's awesome. So this is the rally tower
with the lights
and the light.
Wow.
Oh.
Now you can't tell me that isn't quality.
Look at it. That is gorgeous.
Wow, look, even the light. Look at the light. It's got the little Aurora logo on.
Oh wow, that's cool. Everything ready to bolt stuff on. Wow, that is very, very cool. What do you think?
I'll be honest with you. I knew it was going to be good, but I don't reckon it was going to be so beautiful. I mean, it is.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some rally kits sent to us before.
Yeah.
I won't say by who, because I don't think it's fair. But you know, they came and there was a lot more finishing to do and stuff like that. But this is gorgeous.
Yeah. It's like it's almost like it's straight from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I don't even think KTM would come up with something as quality as this. There would always be something. I know that sounds. I really, there are some finishes you get where you just go, "That's amazing."
So we'll see you next month with more building of bikes. Hopefully you've enjoyed it a bit better now that we've actually done something other than write on whiteboards. But it is, I know people don't like it and they find it boring, but it's a very necessary part of planning.
Yeah,
And we've done an awful lot more and we've still got an awful lot more to do behind the scenes, but as it's so boring we won't bother showing it to you.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Let's not.
Okay, we'll see you next month.
Okay, right, end of the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I think I might be going to bed tonight dreaming of BMW 1000 XRs.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Greater adventure.